Knowles on the News. Susan Knowles.
So right now we're watching history in the making. We just, meaning the GOP, just invoked the nuclear option. And why did we do that? Because we had to. Because the Democrats were dragging their feet. The Democrats who didn't want a judge who was confirmed before, but overwhelming bipartisan support, and who also has one of the highest ratings that the American Bar Association can give. The Democrats didn't want that person sitting as a Supreme Court justice. And they tried everything they could. Chuck Schumer got up. He tried to postpone everything and adjourn until April 24th. Couple of more weeks. I guess he figured, well, we can make this, we can prevent this from happening. We can make this a long, arduous process as if it hasn't been one already. But that didn't work. And we had enough votes for the nuclear option, and now we are waiting for that final vote. But in the meantime, we have to have people who get up and on the Senate floor and talk. I want the vote. Go ahead and vote. You can talk later. One thing about our government, if there's an opportunity for somebody to get in front of the mic on the Senate floor to get their point across about whatever the case may be, they're going to take that opportunity. And then hopefully sometime today, we're going to have that vote to find out if we have confirmation on a new Supreme Court justice. A Supreme Court justice that really no one can find fault with. But the Democrats are just angry because they didn't get who they wanted. 8 months before Obama was ready to leave, and he comes up with somebody that he wants to nominate, and we said we're not even going to look at him. They're mad because that person didn't get in. It would have made the court so liberal, but the Democrats would have loved that. I mean, they were hoping Hillary would get in. And even though the Republicans didn't look at him at that point for a Supreme Court justice, and Hillary would just pick up the ball and run with that, But it didn't work out that way. And now they're mad. And I was watching some of the comments earlier. I had gone in on Facebook Live and kind of watched the comments. And the Democrats are so angry that the Republicans invoked the nuclear option. Now, they're the ones that wanted this, but only when it applied to the Democrats, not to the Republicans. They didn't ever want the Republicans to use it because they were hoping that the Republicans would never be back in power in order to be able to use it. And I guess, that it's a good reminder that sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to. And so, therefore, it isn't always about you that you should be focused on, but about the future, and especially in politics. But they didn't care at the time. They didn't care at the time that their president was signing executive orders every single day, some questionable as to their legality. But that didn't matter because they were in charge. And that's all they wanted to do. And now that they're in charge, all they want to do is point fingers and say how horrible the GOP is for doing what they would have done in a heartbeat. So I'm hoping as I tape this show before the end of it, I will know whether or not Gorsuch was confirmed. You never know what the Republicans are going to do. You never know what John McCain, Lindsey Graham, people like that are going to do. It's always a scary thing. And that's why I say the best thing to do is stop all the talk and let's just get down to the vote so that we can get this done. If the GOP fails in this, if they can't confirm a Supreme Court justice by the nuclear option, we've got more problems than we were ever aware of, okay? Let me just put it that way. This has to get done. There's no better candidate that we have right now. And we're looking at possibly having Justice Kennedy retire and maybe Ginsburg. I think that's who the other one was. I mean, it probably is Ginsburg because if you've ever watched, she typically falls asleep during a hearing that she's at when you're in this House or the Senate has a hearing, and she's invited in with the rest of the Supreme Court. I think the cameras have caught her dozing quite a bit, so maybe it's time. So hopefully, we'll continue to put more conservative judges, who we think are conservative at least, and who we've been given every indication that they are, onto the Supreme Court. That would be great. We have enough moderates like Kennedy on there now, where you're never sure which way he's going to go, and typically he's been kind of left leaning as of late. So I would be glad to see him go and retire. And let's get some strong conservatives back on there and get some morals back into this society that we need, and good judgment, reasonableness, common sense, things like that. Things that we've been missing for the past 8 years. That would be really great. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if the GOP comes through, or are they going to let us down? I mean, there's no reason to have the majority in the House and the Senate and have a Republican president if you're not going to use that opportunity. The Democrats would have you believe that this is the worst possible thing that could ever happen, but it's not. If you're looking at a judge who has great qualifications, and I'm not just saying that because he is, a Republican, although a Republican nomination anyway, but how could you look at his record and not think that he has done everything possible to be a great judge? I mean, go examine it for yourself. And so the Democrats, all of this is because they have hurt feelings. They don't like it. Darn. There's got to be a time when we stop giving in to what the Democrats want. This is one time that we can prove ourselves here that we're not going to give in to the Democrats. If we had a mindset like that, we never would have elected President Trump, because he wasn't expected to win. Everybody said he couldn't win. Everybody said he couldn't get the votes, and yet he did. And Hillary, thank God, is not our president. But we're too quick to just give in to the demands of the left. Perfect example of that. Devin Nunes decided today that he was going to step down and no longer participate in the Russia-Trump, if you will, investigation. Again, there's nothing to that, but we're gonna keep that farce going. So he's stepping down so that an investigation can go forward, and thankfully, Trey Gowdy is going to be taking his place, and another person as well. I can't remember who that person is, but at least we know Trey Gowdy is going to be there. I really like how Trey Gowdy approaches things. There's been some criticisms, though, because he didn't do what we thought he was going to do in Benghazi. He didn't get a conviction. He didn't, take Hillary to task all the way, if you will. But the way I look at it is, did he have an opportunity to under an Obama administration? There's no way. There's just no way. So yes, it was a long time and maybe a waste of time. So we'll see how he does this time. And while he's investigating, let's bring Susan Rice in there. Let's bring Comey back. Let's get some facts out on the table. Each time I talk to you, every time somebody says something about this Russian Trump investigation, I say, where is Dennis Montgomery? Where is the whistleblower that Larry Klayman from the Freedom Watch says has 600 million pages of information and 47 hard drives that shows that all Americans were surveilled upon, that Justice Roberts was surveilled upon, that the Trump administration was surveilled? Where is that? And maybe you think, well, we don't need that because we already know Susan Rice, who she's done the unmasking, blah, blah, blah. Well, again, Susan Rice is not admitting to anything. In fact, I think her words were, let's what did she say? Let me get this right. She said, I didn't give nothing to nobody. Something that you would expect somebody with her intelligence level and education to say, right? I didn't give nothing to nobody, which means she gave something to somebody. I was saying to on my show the other day, this is exactly how Obama used to talk when he wanted to talk, to the common people, to who he felt was his base. Those on the left who wanted to feel that he was the homeboy just like they were. Oh, I'm talking just like you. We're on the same level. Just don't remember the fact that I'm worth $12 million and you're not. But don't let that stop you. I'm just like you. And that's who Susan Rice, that's who she's talking to. She's talking to the same people, trying to, get on their level, because she's already on their level, but, trying to be on their level to convince them, hey, you know what, this is just the Republicans. This is what they do. Don't worry about it. I haven't done anything. Would I lie to you? Would I lie to you? You're my friends. So it's the same old strategy that they continue. Obama, in their minds, he's still in office. So it's the same strategy. So, of course, they're going to say the same thing. So try to focus on the elephant in the room, even though they don't want you to. And there are always distractions, of course. And there continue to be distractions. One of the things I think the biggest distraction that came out yesterday, and I'm not sure why yesterday was the day. Was it so that we would stop looking at Susan Rice? Do we go on to other things? So the left media, of course, helping out to put something out there that makes us all draw our attention elsewhere. And by that I mean when we talk about Steve Bannon. As you know, Steve Bannon yesterday was removed from the National Security Council. So what does that mean? Does that mean he's no longer liked by the president? He's not the favored son anymore? Is that what it means? Or was it simply that McMaster came forward and said, hey, I'm here. I was hired to do this job. I don't need a co-chair doing the job with me. So, it's been fun to have... fun, not so fun, to have Bannon here, but now I need to go ahead and do this job, and Bannon needs to go back to the job that he had before. And then there are all of these rumors that people are saying, well, but he was threatening to quit. Bannon was going to quit if they removed him. But Bannon tells a different story. Bannon says, I never threatened to quit. So who do you believe? I don't know. There's a lot of theories going around about exactly what happened. And people are saying, well, you know what it is? It's that Gary Cohn. He heads up the Trump National Economic Council, and he's also a globalist. So he and Dina Powell, who is also a globalist, they're trying to change everything. They're trying to make the White House and turn President Trump into a globalist, and so that their globalist views will be put in place. And people are saying, it's Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner, he's causing all of this. It's his fault. So, and the solution, they're saying get rid of all the globalists. Well, here's the problem. In the very beginning, there were people who were saying, I'm concerned about the people that are in the Trump administration. I'm seeing a lot of them from Goldman Sachs. I'm seeing a lot of people that have globalist ties. I'm concerned. And everybody at the time who was so happy that Donald Trump became president weren't so concerned. So, okay, so if there was no concern then, what's the concern now? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the hype. And I've said all along, I'm not happy about the number of globalists in there. Now, Donald Trump has said, We need these people in there, these people from Goldman Sachs, because if you're ever going to change anything, you need these people who understand the game. So is he now being betrayed by these people? Is that what we're supposed to believe? And that's what some people are saying. Yes, these people are going to betray him. These people are going to push Bannon out. Maybe. And I've even had people say, well, it's Jared Kushner who's going to do this. He's become friends with Cohn, and he knows Powell. He trusts them. And he's going to get Bannon pushed out. But they neglect to remember that even if that were true, and I have no reason to believe at this point that that is true. Let's say I have no factual information or evidence on that. Are we going to discount the fact that Ivanka Trump supports her father? I think so much so that even if her husband, even if it is her husband, if he turns against Donald Trump, she is not going to allow that to happen. And I've seen no evidence. Again, I mean, we can talk and we can say this is our opinion, but when people are talking like this is factual, this is it, this is exactly what's happening, this isn't an opinion anymore, this is fact. Well, unless you have personal knowledge of which you speak, then it's not factual. It is your opinion. Unless you have spoken face to face with Steve Bannon and you know exactly what he's saying and what his opinions are and what he said he was going to do or not do, you don't have personal knowledge. You can look at what's being said in the news and other places and surmise, if you want, what's going to happen. But unless you've talked to the source, you don't have personal knowledge. And I think that we have to be more cautious about that. I mean, we really do. Because this is how fake news gets started. This is why people now, that's their favorite term to use, fake news. Because we have people who are coming forward and saying, this is what's happening. Okay, how do you know that? If you were there, if somebody told you that directly, then let's hear it. Because right now it looks like that we're doing a little bit of restructuring based upon what might be in any business the best thing to do. You don't want to have two CEOs running a business. You don't need, co-chairs running a business. That's not how it's done. I mean, could it be done that way? Well, yeah, I mean, anything's possible. You can change it and make it that way. But that's typically not what you see. So the fact that Bannon, who can still be invited to the NSC and sit on in meetings and things like that, the fact that he's kind of been put back in his chief strategist position, I don't find unusual. Now, is he just giving a good show of it and pretending that everything is okay? He very well could be. But this story, again, you have to realize, and I don't know if many people know this story came out in March in the Daily Mail. I mean, this was not unheard of. Like we didn't just hear of it yesterday and nobody heard of it before. This came out in a story in March. And yet really nobody made a big deal of it back then. And Donald Trump tried to explain, and he's explained this before, and this is regards to the alphas that he seems to have in his business and now in the White House. I think the man likes to bring in these strong, well-educated, successful, egotistical, okay, they got to have egos. If you're in that type of power position, you're going to have an ego, okay? Let's just assume that's correct. But I think he likes to bring them in, and in some ways, I don't want to use the word pits them against each other, but sometimes that's what happens. And they're all vying for that top spot because that's who they are. That's how they got to their own top spots. But he has these intellectual brains, if you will, that he can utilize within his business or within the White House. And I think that's a good thing. You don't want somebody, and pardon me, Dan Quayle, if you're listening, but you don't want somebody like Dan Quayle in there to try to tell you how things should be changed, how things should be run, what the strategies are, and things of that nature. And again, these people, we knew they were globalists before. But there are so many. I mean, we have Stephen Mnuchin. He is Rick Perry, Wilbur Ross, and I'm sure there are other people. They're globalists. I mean, they're globalists. And so if you didn't like it, why now is it all of a sudden an issue? And people are saying, well, if Steve Bannon leaves, we've lost Donald Trump. We've lost the reason that we put him in. It won't be a nationalist populist view anymore. Well, again, I don't think we need to jump so quickly that, Steve Bannon is packing his bags and halfway out the door. I don't know. I mean, is Steve Bannon going to do what's best for the country? Or is he going to leave? I don't know. And I guess we'll see a lot of what the character of Steve Bannon is in the next couple of weeks. But I think, again, if you hire somebody, you've got to let them do their jobs. And as I've told you, I know many times before, I don't particularly like the fact that there are globalists in the White House. I don't like the fact that there are globalists that exist in the United States anywhere, to be honest with you. But they're there. And they're going to continue to be there. And I think that, the ones who aren't globalists that we know of, Donald Trump is supposedly not a globalist. Ivanka Trump supposedly is not a globalist. Neither is Jared Kushner, and neither was Michael Flynn. Now, and neither is Stephen Bannon, from what I understand. I give you that information based upon things that I've read from multiple sources. So and that's a very small number of people, really, when you look at it. Very small number of people in the administration that are not globalists. There are a lot of people in business that are globalists. A lot of people in politics in general that are globalists. And I just, again, I go back to the fact that, if Jared Kushner is becoming, and has become friends with Cohn and Powell, and if he's somehow trying to undermine his father-in-law, I would have to say at this point, that would surprise me a bit. I haven't seen him doing that. And I don't think that Donald Trump was forced to bring Jared Kushner on. I think he thought that was the right decision to be made. And who knows? Maybe he discussed that with Ivanka, and maybe she thought that was a good thing to do. Now, I'm telling you this, I'm not naive. If I see anything that makes me believe, if I see evidence, I need to see facts, okay, that lead me to believe that somehow Jared has turned against the family and that these other people and Jared are trying to take over. We'll know that as we watch and see what happens. And I think that if Steve Bannon leaves, there's been a lot of people, as you know, who did not like Steve Bannon in that position at the National Security Council. There's been, I think, no other person in his position that ever held a place in the NSC, because it just unheard of. He didn't have the right credentials, qualifications, whatever you want to say. So it's not unusual that they're asking him to step down from that position. The more unusual thing was that he was in the position in the first place. And I don't necessarily know if that means Donald Trump has just said, well, we don't need you anymore. I mean, from what we've seen and what we've heard with Donald Trump, he's pretty loyal to people that are loyal to him. Now, there has been talk, well, he's unhappy with Steve Bannon because, he didn't get some things that he wanted, that he didn't get health care through yet, or that he had issues with the Freedom Caucus. I don't know if that's true. I have read that. But is that enough for Donald Trump to put every blame onto Steve Bannon? I mean, isn't that also the fault of Ryan and other people who were working on health care that maybe didn't make the greatest health care bill that they could? And we're still struggling with it. We're still struggling with how to get this done. When, again, for me, it's simple. First, you have a line on a piece of paper, like Mo Brooks said, that just says, we repeal Obamacare, okay? And then move on from there. It's not that hard. But I think that we have to, there's so much hype going on. And people want you to quickly just jump to any conclusion whatsoever. Oh, that sounds good. Let's just jump over here. And you've got so many people, and I hate to say it, in social media, who get people so wound up that people are starting to say, what do I do? Who do I believe? I don't know what to do. This is, should I be scared? Is the world coming to an end? Because that's how these people are talking. The world is coming to an end. Let me just tell you something. The world is coming to an end eventually. Meaning God's going to return, okay? So you can call it the life as we knew it is going to end someday, all right? God's in charge. We have to believe that. And we know that from things that we've seen. God's in charge, okay? Let's start there. And anytime that people are trying to get you so hyped up that you'll just follow them and believe them, you have to stop and ask yourself, number one, are they giving you factual information? What are they basing it on, Or are they just giving you their opinion and making you think it's factual? Discernment, right? God always talks to us about discernment. And then before you allow them to propel you into this, oh my gosh, what do we do? Go back to God. Go back to the Bible, all right? Don't be led around by the nose by anyone. And I tell people with what I tell you, I'm giving you the best knowledge, facts, and information and opinion that I have. I will tell you, you'll know when it's my opinion. And I'll tell you where I get sources or that I've heard other people saying it. Whatever. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know exactly what Steve Bannon is going to do and why. I didn't talk to Steve Bannon, and I dare say that other people have either. Just like other people who should be saying this, I can only give you an opinion of what I think may happen. And I think with Steve Bannon, it's going to be, let's say that what everybody's saying is true, that he was demoted and he's upset by that and he threatened to leave. Again, his ego may allow him to leave. He may say, you know what, this isn't for me. I thought I was going to have more position, more power, on and on and on. And he goes. If he does, okay, he goes. Some people would be really happy about that. Some people would not be so happy about that. Does that mean then Donald Trump is going to fall apart? Does it mean that his presidency is going to fall apart? Does it mean that he's going to be swept up by the globalists and believe what they say and move everything towards their agenda and forget why he was elected in the White House in the first place? So far, he hasn't. I mean, is he perfect? No. Has he done some things that some people don't like? Yeah, he has. Some people don't like the fact that he keeps trying to blame the Freedom Caucus. Should he be blaming the Freedom Caucus? I mean, the way I look at it, and I don't know all the ins and outs and everything that the Freedom Caucus is doing, but I do like the fact that the Freedom Caucus is standing up for what we all said we wanted, which was the repeal of Obamacare. I don't want Paul Ryan's Obamacare light. I don't. I want Obamacare gone. And then we can start over and figure out what to do. And as I've said to you before, I think we only need a few things. Pre-existing condition, need to take care of that. And that small number of people that couldn't afford insurance but needed it. And again, and I'm of the mind, I'm not even sure we should be taking care of that. That goes into socialism, and that's how we got here in the first place. There should be a way to help people be able to get insurance from insurance companies and have it be affordable without having the government come into our business. Government is too far into everything. Government is in healthcare. Government is in our relationships and marriage. Government is, in the banking, and on and on and on. I don't want the government so involved in our lives. I want them out of it. I mean, at this point, I don't want Ryan there anymore working on Obamacare. I mean, he's coming out again. Oh, well, this is probably going to take weeks. Okay, Mr. Debbie Downer. I mean, every time you step to the mic, there's always something that we can't do. Paul Ryan, get it done. If you truly want to get it done, you can get it done. And I know, even Vice President Pence came out with something. People didn't like that. This was just recently. He wanted to have a provision in this new health care bill, the one we're working on right now, that basically gives allows states to have waivers to certain Obamacare regulations, which again could impact pre-existing conditions. And it could raise those rates for people who have pre-existing conditions. And people are saying, well, I don't like that. I don't want them, screwing around with the capitalist system. And I have to say, I don't want higher rates. Nobody wants higher rates. But I mean, I think that's, what kind of is expected in a capitalistic society. And we have to decide, are we going to be capitalists? Or are we going to be socialists? Or are we going to straddle the fence? Because right now, I think we're trying to straddle the fence. When do we stop doing that? When do we get back to the point where we say, okay, we need to have insurance companies across state lines. Anybody can get insurance anywhere. That will make the prices drop. Let's do that. Go out and get insurance for those people who aren't working. Well, there's probably unemployment insurance that you could use towards your insurance. Whatever. I don't feel a lack of compassion for people. But we have to decide in America, are we capitalists? Are we socialists? We can't have it both ways. We can't be, Bernie Sanders one day and Ronald Reagan the next. We've got to decide where we're at. And I think moving forward, we really have to. And we do have to concern ourselves about the globalists that are working in every aspect of our companies, of our government, and everywhere else. And I think the key word, honestly, is discernment. We have to discern what's really happening before we can know which way how we should move forward. And it does concern me with this health care bill that we're probably looking at. Recess is going to come and go, and we're going to still be working on this thing. What's the problem? Truly, I'm trying to figure out why Paul Ryan has his hands in this anyway. Why was he the designated guy on this? Why? And if he tried the first time and he couldn't get it through, why aren't we at least helping him out with somebody else? Paul Ryan went and played golf with the president last weekend. He was feeling very optimistic that we were moving forward. And he's one that hasn't felt optimistic about this from the very beginning. He wasn't given a voice, and he felt like he just wasn't being heard, and this wasn't good. Well, apparently he feels now that he has a voice, things are moving forward, and so here we go again. We can't get things done. Do we need people from the outside, to come in and help the government do their jobs? I think in some ways maybe we do. And I know right now people are saying, well, the insurance companies are in there helping, and that's the problem. Okay, well, we've got our quote-unquote brightest and best. If we can't get something, which, again, I see as so simple, you simply say, we're repealing this, and we're going to start all over. And are people going to be upset by that? Absolutely, they're going to be upset by that. The Democrats are always going to say, you're robbing the poor people. You don't care about them. You don't want them to have insurance. You don't care if they die. Whatever. They're going to say that no matter what. We should be used to the fact by now that we can't do anything right in their eyes. Why do we keep pandering to the left? Why do we do this? Is it that we believe that the public is so far left that we have to do that all the time? Let's get over it. Let's move on. Let's start being the role model that you want the rest of the country to be. From what I'm seeing so far, it's not a good thing. People aren't doing their jobs. And this healthcare thing, this is vital that we get this right. Just like it's vital that we get Judge Gorsuch in there. This is vital too. And Gorsuch, for the long term, we really have to get that right. But with Obamacare, people can't afford this. People cannot afford. I talked to somebody the other day, a single man whose insurance is a house payment. Now, of course, he wanted to get good insurance, He wanted his PPO, but I don't think he got a PPO. And even with something like Kaiser, and if people that, don't live here and don't have Kaiser, it's an HMO, okay? It's not the best health care in the world. And he's paying like a house payment to get that because of Obamacare. He's paying for everybody else, just like you and I are. We've talked about this before. I don't know about you. I have the worst insurance ever now, and I never had this before. It was always, you could select who you wanted, get a great PPO, and boom, you were done. You were covered. You knew things were great. And along came Obamacare and absolutely ruined it for everyone. And I don't want to sit here and say, okay, well, we'll just go work with the Democrats. No, that's not the answer. Or we'll wait till it implodes and then the Democrats will come running. That's not the answer. The answer is always to put the American public first. What's in our best interest? This game playing, and I'm not accusing Donald Trump and his administration of game playing. What I'm saying is politics is nothing a lot of times but game playing. I'm so tired of the game playing. We as Americans, we deserve the best. We really do. And by that I mean our government, both Democrat, Republicans, working around the clock to ensure as Americans that we have the best. We have the best safety, the best health care, the best life possible, freedom, on and on and on. And I don't think a lot of times that the focus is on that. The focus is on, like, with the Judge Gorsuch. How can we stop the Republicans from getting this great judge that we all agreed was a great judge? No, it's, we just want to continue the game playing so that we can get our way, whatever that is. And I know that you're as tired of it as I am. And Donald Trump, there's so many people that want to slight him. He's done great stuff. How many presidents gave their first quarter like $78,000 of their salary as president, that he's not taking, by the way? How many people have donated that to the national parks? I'm waiting. And here we have Obama, who is a net worth of $12 million, they speculate. He took a salary. He didn't donate his salary. I don't think George Bush donated his salary. And these people, they're not poor people, okay? They're not poor people. They may not be as rich as Donald Trump. They may not have paid as much in taxes as Donald Trump, but they're not poor by any stretch of the imagination. So, besides doing that, he's trying to give land back, that the government tried to take, the federal government. He's trying to undo things that Obama did, and he's not getting any credit for it. Because the mainstream media, they're not going to tell you that. Of course not. They're not going to tell you any one thing that he did that's good because they want you to hate him. And they want him out of here in 4 years, if not before. So unless we tell people what he's done, nobody's ever going to know. And it's so ridiculous that they can't come up with one good thing and say, you know what? Yeah, we hate him, but he did do this well. They can't even do that. They are so shallow and so small that they can't do that. I try to think myself, was there anything that Obama did that I really liked? No. I'm sure there was something that I'm forgetting, but it wasn't like every day like we see with Donald Trump when he's doing one thing after the other. And maybe he didn't get, this repeal of Obamacare as fast as some people wanted, but he's still trying. He's still working for the American people. I didn't see Obama really working for the American people. I saw Obama working for chosen people, but not all Americans. And I see President Trump really trying to work for all Americans. I really do. And again, is he perfect? No, he's not perfect. He's not going to get everything right. But he deserves some recognition for what he's done. And he deserves to, have the media come out and defend some aspect of what he does. Like, for example, well, there's no evidence to show that Russia and Trump had any connection, or that Trump did anything with Russia to affect the election. They can't even say that. They can't even say that. But they're hypocrites. I can tell you that. And the reason I know they're hypocrites, the reason that you know they're hypocrites, I think one of the funniest examples was and I didn't even know that there was a day called this, but there's a day called Equal Pay Day. That's when we talk about this gender gap in pay, that men make more than women. And every year since, 2013, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat, has always taken an opportunity to get up in front of Congress and talk about how horrible the day is. That the Republicans basically have just screwed over women totally, right? It's always the Republicans, never the Democrats. But how the Republicans, they just war on women, how much they hate women. And how do they show that? Well, one way is by the fact that they don't give them equal pay as men. And instead of Equal Pay Day, she called it Embarrassment Pay Day or something like that. It was such an embarrassment. Well, this year was quite a bit different for her. And I wrote about it in an article at SUSANKNOWLES.com, and I would implore that you go there and look at it. But see, Elizabeth is used to being under President Barack Obama, right? So when you're under the Democrats, when they're running the show, you're not likely to get called out. People are just going to let you go, say what you want to say, do what you want to do. They're not going to question it. You're never going to hear about it in mainstream media because, they're the state-run media working with the Obama administration. So that's not a problem. So you can get up and say anything you want. You can accuse the Republicans of anything you want. And nobody is going to call you out on it. You can just bet that it's not going to happen. And that's what she was betting on, right? 2013, no problem. 2014, 15, 16, she gets up there and talks about how horrible this is and how people should be ashamed and embarrassed that they don't pay women the same as men. Well, this year, a report came out. They have this thing called the Census Bureau, and they have statistics that they take from it. And, they have other statistics, and they kind of put those together. And every now and then, when things come out, they're not so much in your favor. And especially when you have a majority-run Senate, a majority House, a Republican president, all that Republican, and you're a Democrat, it's really, really hard to hide behind those type of things, and to hide behind the skirt of the president or pants of the president, whatever you want to say. And it was discovered on what she normally called National Embarrassment Day that Elizabeth pays her women that work for her in the Senate, they earn just 71% of what the men earned. Say it isn't so, Elizabeth. Tell me you're not paying the women the same amount that you're paying the men. I don't. Hypocrites always. And it's amazing that on National Embarrassment Day, she's the one that was embarrassed. And it's funny when she got up and did her little speech. Normally, like I said, she talks about equal pay and it's this long, drawn-out thing, making the Republicans look bad, so she thinks, calling them out, war on women, on and on. This time, guess what? She didn't even talk about equal pay. No. On Equal Pay Day, that wasn't even talked about. We just kind of let that go and skimmed right over that. And again, while she's no longer protected by the Obama administration, she is protected by mainstream media. Did anybody hear about that story on ABC, NBC, CBS, No, it was just kind of swept under the rug. Just like when Hillary, when it was determined that under the Secretary of State, she wasn't paying women equally either. I mean, again, these people, they are so above the law, and they really are above the law and comment. Because, while we sit here on the right and we talk about it, nobody else is talking about it. Everybody else is protecting them. But I'm really glad that she had to eat crow on her National Embarrassment Day, and I'm sure there's going to be more embarrassing days for Elizabeth. Because, again, people are calling her out more, even though it's not mainstream media. Those on the right, like myself, we're not staying silent. We're going to get that out there for everybody to see. And to see that you can sit there and talk about war on women when it's coming from your own office. Yes, you, Elizabeth, your office. How embarrassing. Now, I heard some other news today. I don't know how I'm feeling about it. I'm kind of okay. It makes sense to me. But let me tell you a little bit about what it is. The Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly came out this week, and he was talking in front of Congress. They called him in. He was talking about the border wall. And I guess they were asking questions. They wanted to know what this was going to cost, how they were going to do it, because I think the bids closed on that earlier this week as well. And by the way, you didn't hear about this in mainstream media, but people who were putting bids in on the fence, on the wall, were getting death threats. We're getting other type of threats. I wonder who that came from. There was one guy who was an American, but he lives, I guess, in Mexico, and he has a crew in Mexico, and he wanted to work on the wall, and it was been reported that he was getting death threats. They're like, don't you dare work on that wall if you want to stay alive. So I don't know if he ended up, getting a bid in there or not. But it's a shame when you can't work somewhere, even though let's say you don't agree with it, but people have a right to work, not legally a right, not in California, but they have a right to work, and they should be able to do that without feeling that they have to be threatened. It's ridiculous. But anyway, when Kelly was talking to Congress about it, he said that there's not going to be a wall that will secure the entire border. So we're not going to have this wall that stretches from one end of the border to the next. We've always talked about the wall. Well, apparently, it's not going to be a full wall. How big is it going to be? How long is it going to be? We don't know. But he's saying that it's going to the wall is going to be a combination of things. It's going to be fences, electronics, towers, wall structures, in areas that maybe the Border Patrol feels that there should be a wall. So I don't know how a lot of people are going to feel about that. He seems to think that it's fine. And he said that he has the support of President Trump, who said, do what makes sense. Well, I mean, I think that's good, because when you look at things, how expensive and how difficult would that be to stretch a wall all across the border? It's not impossible, but I think there are things probably that can be done that would make more sense, and depending upon the area. And this time I think that it would actually be done. Whereas before we talked about things, we never did anything. And I think that, we are doing things. Even though we've had people like Governor Jerry Brown of California coming out saying that he's going to do everything within his power, his legal power, I'm assuming, to stop that wall. And he's like, oh, we're not going to file silly lawsuits to do it. But he didn't say what he was going to do. And that's a little concerning. What is he going to have tree huggers out there that are up in trees saying, don't cut this down to make the wall? I don't know. And trust me, it's California, so that could be something that he has on the agenda. But anyway, hopefully people can be all right with that and say, well, yes, Donald Trump said we were going to have a wall, but if this makes sense, yes, then this is the way that we should do it. But again, I don't think much which was made out of it. It didn't really hit mainstream media. I don't know if all Trump supporters would be for or against that. I mean, I'm thinking some would say, you promised us a wall. We want a wall. And they would expect that to be the entire length of the border. And who knows? Maybe when things start, maybe we'll have more wall or less wall. I mean, I don't know. Me personally, I just want to start the wall. Okay, just get going. let's see some actual wall coming up, and let's do something that the drug cartels aren't coming over here. And while you're doing the wall, make sure you think about the tunnels underneath that wall. You're going to have to go down far enough that there's not going to be the drug cartels coming through. Some of these things, I mean, there have been very elaborate tunnels underneath where drug cartels are coming to and fro. I mean, it is room where you can stand up and you can walk, and there are ventilation systems so that you can breathe, and on and on. These are elaborate walls that sometimes there'll be a house, for example, that's near the border, and if they go in there, meaning like ICE goes in there, or the DEA or somebody like that, they discover there's a whole tunnel, a whole world underneath these people's homes. So they better be thinking about that and how far down they need to dig, when they're putting up that wall, because these people, man, they, when you're talking a lot of money, you're not giving up. You'll do whatever needs to be done. So let's at least make it as difficult for them as we can possibly do that. But I'm hoping that, that we get this wall started quickly here, that we don't wait another year or two or whatever it is, that we just start going, and to show the American people that we mean business. Now, I do like all the facts that we've seen lately where, ICE is going out there and arresting the criminal illegal immigrants. I mean, a lot of people say, why aren't we taking all illegal immigrants out of here that entered this country illegally? And I don't disagree. I know that there are exceptions and things that we need to look at. I mean, recently people were saying, well, you're coming here to the courthouses, ICE, and you're stalking people at the courthouse, is what one judge from California accused ICE of doing, and said, we don't want you to do that because we have witnesses and victims who are not going to see justice because you're doing that. Well, again, the media kind of left out this little tiny thing that says, you do get immunity when you're a victim or witness. So you're going to be in the country long enough to get justice. But I think people have to remember that just because you're a victim of one crime or a witness of one crime doesn't mean that you can't also be a criminal of another crime. You know, we can't assume that every victim and every witness doesn't have a criminal history. And I think we always forget that. We meaning at some points the left wants everybody to say, oh, those poor people, they're being separated from their families. And I try to say this a lot, that these people are, not everyone, but some of the criminal illegal immigrants that are here, let's say, they committed the crime because of their actions. They're the ones that are separating themselves from their family. They're the ones that should know that eventually you're going to have to pay for the crimes you committed. And that could mean incarceration. What are we supposed to do? Just say to the criminals, oh, well, you have a family. We're not going to separate you from your family, so we're not even going to put you in prison. Really? I mean, is that where we're coming to? And does that only apply to illegal immigrants in the country, or does that apply to every American citizen in the country as well? I mean, again, where is our reasonableness? Where has that gone? We have to be reasonable about these things that we're talking about. So if these people had never committed a crime in the first place, they wouldn't be separated from their families, not by the federal government. And if they had not come here illegally, they would not have themselves caused, or be part of the cause at least, of why they're separated from their families. And I think we forget sometimes, with illegal immigrants that have come here that haven't committed crimes, that maybe came here to have children so they would have an anchor baby, as they call them. They're the ones that caused a potential separation, knowing that their children were legally here, but they weren't. And they were hoping that the law wouldn't change, but that's not what the law says. And I know the Trump administration is struggling with what to do with those individuals because they don't want to separate families. And I get that. I mean, a solution is that the children could go to Mexico. And I know what everybody's going to say, yeah, but they're American citizens. And I get it. Okay, I get that. But they do have a choice. They have an option. It may not be a great one, but they do have that choice. And again, the illegal immigrants that came here in the first place, they had a choice of not coming here. And I know people think, well, that's really harsh. But we would not be allowed to go to another country illegally ourselves and expect to have half of the consideration that those that come here are given. So I think we're doing the best that we can. We have to protect our country. We have to protect the citizens within our country first. And we also need to give first consideration to those immigrants who have come to this country legally, who have been waiting in line, sometimes for years, to become American citizens. Those people who want to be here, those people who want to come here and assimilate and become Americans, and have all the benefits of being an American citizen and sharing in that culture and, the legal system and everything else that they're entitled to when they're an American citizen. But we always go back to this, oh, but that's not, compassionate. Well, it is compassionate because it's saying don't break the law and none of this will happen to you. And you are the ones that have that choice of deciding whether or not you break the law. And that discussion, we're going to have that for quite a long time. And the moment we start that discussion on what to do with those people that have children here that are American citizens, you can bet the ACLU is going to come out of the woodwork and the Democrats are going to come out of the woodwork. That's going to be a long uphill battle, whatever we do. But we just have to stay strong. We have to also remember that we are the majority in the House and the Senate, and that we have a Republican president. and stop backing down. We have to do what's right by the law and what's right for American citizens. I thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure as always. I hope you come back again next week. Until then, stay strong, speak out for the truth, take care of yourself. God bless. We'll see you again next week.